Sorry, I was muted.
Hi.
I'm delivering something to you tomorrow at KLP.
You
So if
are?
you find something on your desk, it's from me.
Oh, you're the best. What time are you going to be here?
All day. So I'll be there like 8 to 5.
Okay, cool.
Give or take a few. Okay.
I'm so excited.
How are you feeling?
Good, better. I had 4 days in a row of migraines last week.
That's awful.
So bad. It was so
Is
bad.
that normal?
No, I usually get like 2 a year, and I had probably 7 or 8 in the last 90 days.
Ugh.
So
Yuppie.
I have some appointments with specialists and neurologists coming up.
Yay.
Can't wait.
Maybe he'll look like Derek Shepherd.
Right? If I have to get an MRI, he better be cute.
Yeah. Well, everybody here usually comes on right at 9 o'clock.
I kind of figured. That's how it was last time.
Yeah. It's like the doom, and I'm always just like, is anybody coming? And then it's just all like
everyone.
Yeah, all at once. Good morning, Letha.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good, but not as good as you. I heard you had a busy weekend.
Yeah, well, I was doing trim work this weekend with my husband, so it wasn't fun.
You had a deal go under contract too, correct?
No.
No, that wasn't you?
That wasn't me.
I was eavesdropping on scripts. I know somebody had a busy weekend.
Yeah, who was that? Robin.
Oh, Robin. Okay.
Yeah, that was Robin. So Kayla, you're her favorite teacher because you share her name.
I talk about you all the time, Kayla.
That's a good reason. Yeah. That's a really good reason to be your favorite.
The first time I called Kayla to introduce myself, like when I started a bajillion years ago, I was like, hi, Kayla, this is Kayla. Nice to meet you.
It is weird when you have someone with your same name and you introduce yourself. You're like, hi, Kayla. I'm Kayla.
Yeah.
I've never had that problem.
Yeah. You have a very unique name.
Yeah, my mom was from Texas. She tagged me Letha Odette. Go figure.
What's your middle name? Odette? I like that.
It's different.
Yeah, that's true. I like that.
You could go by Lo. L-O.
Yeah.
L-O.
How many people are we anticipating?
They kind of trickle in. I still say we have an appointment at 9. So started at 9, and then they can come in and it's recorded so they can come back and watch whatever piece they missed.
Okay, cool. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? I know it's early on a Monday. My name's Kayla Peterson. I've been with KW for 3 years, almost 4. And today we're going to go over some buyer presentations. Does anybody have an appointment set already that they're looking forward to? No. Okay, you'll get there. Do you guys have any exciting business to talk about from the weekend? Any big wins? Cool.
Well, I do have a buyer kind of in limbo because it's an unfortunate situation. Her grandfather is really ill and he only has about 2 weeks left, and she's inheriting $70,000. And his wish is that she get out of the trailer she's in with her little ones and buy a home.
Wow.
So it's my best friend's daughter, and it's an unfortunate situation, but I'm going to be doing some door knocking in the Salmon Well area because she can't afford Oracle where we're at right here. But she works at Circle K, and so she wants to take that and use that as a down payment and hopefully get a loan for about $50,000-$60,000.
That's great. Yeah, that is a super tough situation. And those buyers are, it's like happy for them to purchase, but at the same time, I'm sure it's really hard on her. So that one will probably be a really emotional transaction. Hopefully this will kind of set you up with the best way to help her use that down payment for something that's really the best opportunity for her long term, you know, after maybe she wants to rent it out and purchase something different, or just really set her up to be successful with this purchase.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad, and it's, you know, it's something that normally when you're buying a home, it's a celebration, and in this case, not so much.
Yeah, that's hard. That is really tough. All right, you guys ready to get started? Do you guys have any fears around buyers or buyer consultations? I mean, obviously this is new to you guys, but is there anything right off the bat that like scares you about it or gives you anxiety? No? Good. Buyers are my favorite. Like we were just saying, I think that connecting with your buyers is more of an emotional experience, whereas sellers tend to be very about the bottom dollar. You don't get to, you know, show houses and get close to them. To me, I feel like buyers are just more fun. They're my favorite. Obviously, we can't always choose whether our clients are buyers or sellers, but I get especially excited when I get a buyer. Kayla, do you have the PowerPoint?
I can. Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up.
Will you pull that up for me, pretty please, so we can follow along?
Yeah, I think buyers are exciting because there's that thrill of, yay, we got a new home, you know, so going out and looking and showing buyers different homes is always a really fun process.
Yeah. Is it fair to assume that all of you have 0 transactions underneath you so far? We're all starting at a blank slate?
I've been a real estate agent for 1.5 years. I just recently moved to Keller Williams, but I was kind of thrown into it like, here, you got your license, here's your dust, sink or swim.
Yeah. It's a very fast-paced industry. So if you don't just grab a hold and go, then you will definitely get lost.
Yeah, I appreciate the education that Keller Williams offers, and it puts me in the zip codes I wanted to be in, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely why I stay with this brokerage. I love that we have so much training available. I feel like other agents at other brokerages are, speaking from experience, are not as forthcoming with information and training and help. And I love that at KW, it's just part of our culture to help each other out and help each other succeed.
Right.
I've actually really found that I'm only at a month total from license, and everyone I've met so far, live or on Zoom, has been crazy helpful.
Good.
And I've kind of connected with a couple and like shadowed this weekend. I did a open house with someone, and I did a showing that the client didn't show up to, but it was really cool experience that, you know, they're not my clients, but I got to shadow and learn a lot hands-on and practice my Supra, which was kind of stressing me out. So so I feel like I learned a lot, and people are just really helpful. Yeah. So that's nice. And since we're technically competitors.
Yeah, that's what I love about this this brokerage as a whole, is everybody's always so helpful. When I first got into real estate, I was at Tierra Antigua for about 6 months. Didn't work out for me. There was no training, no support. So I came over to KW and I joined Stratton. I was at Stratton for 1.5 years, almost 2 years. And it was like immediately, I think within my first 3 weeks, I already had somebody under contract. And it was just amazing. Like I went from a brokerage where nobody even like checked in on me or cared about my success to being like, you know, at the time we had Crystal, I think, as our OP or whatever. And I mean, people just check in and they care, and everybody here is so invested in your success.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I love it here. Good. All right. So, Kayla, do you want to go ahead and skip forward a couple? Are you guys all doing script practice? I heard Kayla say everybody's in script practice right now. Okay, I don't have that book, so there may be some parts that I'll need you guys to kind of help fill in for me, just because I don't have that material. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, cool. So let's talk about setting the appointment. Obviously, through command, as you're lead generating, your one goal always is to set the appointment, right? We're not trying to sell homes over the phone. We're not trying to necessarily convert buyers right over the phone. We're just trying to set the appointment and get in front of them. So today we'll go over what to do once you set that appointment and how to move forward with that buyer. Let me go back a page. Okay, so let's talk about the buyer broker agreement. Why do you think that that's something that is super important to implement into your buyer presentation? Have you guys talked about that at all yet? Okay, so give me a couple of reasons why it's important to get that signed before you even show a house.
So they don't turn on you?
Totally. You don't want to end up wasting a lot of time with someone who's potentially using another agent. For me, I present it to them as it's a commitment for my employment, not only as me as your agent, but you as the client too. As you start to get super busy in volume, you're not going to want to waste your time with people who are only half serious and who are entertaining other agents. So by getting that signature, it's just a commitment that says, yes, I'm your agent. I'm going to do the work to send you homes, and you as the client are not going to be using other agents as well. I think the biggest thing is that you could just end up spending a lot of time. And it does happen. I mean, I do have some clients. I literally 2 weeks ago had a buyer tell me that they didn't want to work with me anymore. And that's something that you will run into, and that's okay. I tell my clients, you know, yes, this is a binding agreement, but if at any point we're not happy working together, let's just talk through that and not work together, because those relationships can be really painful. So it's not like 100% success. It does happen, but I would say 9 times out of 10, it'll alleviate that.
At least with the contract, they are obligated to tell you, and you know, they're not just, oh yeah, I found a home with such and such agent and I'll be working with them now. You know, they're obligated to tell you, hey, it's not working out.
It's true, and it can even protect your commission. So say you showed a house to someone and you didn't have that buyer broker signed, and they wrote a contract on that house with a different agent, you would get nothing. But having that buyer broker in place at least gives you the opportunity to fight for your commission because you did show them that house. So keep that in mind. Whether they decide to work with you or not, you want to have that in place when you're showing homes. In the event that they do go with someone else, you can get some of that commission rather than zero. Because that's painful. All right, Kayla, will you go to the next page, please? Okay, so we've got this one here. We talk about what an A buyer is. An A buyer is someone who is able, ready, and willing to purchase a new home. They'll be under contract in a matter of weeks. This is someone who you set the appointment with, they're ready to get pre-qualified, they know what they're looking for. My biggest question that I have with buyers to determine if they're ready is at the end of our buyer consult, I say, are you ready to write an offer? That will kind of tell you where they're at. If they say no, they obviously have some work to do, whether it's on a lease, whether they're just unsure, and that relationship's going to take a little bit more nurturing. But once you have your A buyer, that's when it's time to close for the appointment. Are you guys all using command? Everybody pretty comfortable in that? Okay, cool. So Nicole, I will say that Jesse is a great resource, and Dan as well. Me, unfortunately, not so much. I'm not great with technology. I'll help in any way that I can, but I would definitely recommend reaching out to them as far as the command campaigns and things like that. I am not.
We also have tech bootcamp trainings. Jesse is updating all of it for 2021. So just jump in there, and as you have questions with command, just come to us. But don't be scared of it, and you can't break it. So just play with it. And when you have questions, write them down.
That is good to know.
You too, Kayla.
Same, I'm not comfortable with it. And we tend to be afraid of the things that we're not super comfortable with. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide for me. All right, so the goal of the buyer consultation appointment is a signed buyer agreement. You want to set the tone for closing of the buyer, which begins with the invitation to meet for a buyer consultation. For me, that's as simple as, you know, whether I'm on the phone or whether I meet someone in person and they say they're thinking about buying a house. The first thing I do before I try to really sell them on buying a house or try to convert them as I'm like, you know what, a good question too is like, how long has it been since you bought a home? And they'll say, oh, I've never bought before, or it's been a couple years. I always say, great, let's go to coffee. We can sit down and talk about what's changed, or if you're a first-time home buyer, we can just go over what to expect from me, and kind of soothe some anxieties about home buying, because I know it can be a little bit intimidating. Have you guys role played through how to set appointments on the phone? Are you guys working through that in your scripts?
We're working on listing scripts in script class right now.
Okay. So for me, I guess it's as simple as, you get someone, hey, I saw you're on the website looking for homes. Are you thinking about buying? And they'll say like, oh, we've been kind of thinking about it. You ask some of those qualifying questions. And then again, always ask for the business. Okay, sounds great. Well, are you free on Tuesday or Wednesday to meet with me for about 30 minutes? Just go over the buying process and talking about getting you pre-qualified. Always try to set that appointment first. This says turn to page 14 in your script book. I don't know what that looks like.
Script book.
And then this says that on page 18, there's a little more dialogue for setting the buyer consultation. Is that accurate? Okay, we're gonna just keep going past that since I don't have that in front of me. The buyer presentation is a tool to help you get to know the values, wants, and needs of your buyer during the consultation appointment. I will say that there's a lot of layers to your buyers. I'll teach you guys how to ask some qualifying questions, because sometimes what they say is important is not always important. Kayla, let's go to the slide that says create the presentation. This is where you'll see it in Command. Command has a really good template for the buyer presentation. I would definitely recommend that you all spend some time getting comfortable with this. At the end of class today, I'll role play with you how my buyer presentation is set up. It's a little bit different because I made it before we had Command, but I think it's a really good tool that you're all welcome to use and then kind of implement and change to make it fit how you would do it. There's 2 templates for the buyer presentation that are fully customizable. The buyer presentation, again, is a tool to guide the conversation to provide the client with a tangible demonstration to your expertise as a real estate agent. I'll say that in the beginning, when I first got started, this was like a lifesaver, because I had maybe like 1 or 2 transactions closed, and it's really hard to feel like you're the expert on something if you don't have something really concrete to give your buyer. I think a successful real estate transaction and relationship always starts with setting clear expectations. Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. Each section of the buyer presentation helps you connect with the buyer and build confidence in your value proposition. You can make changes to a lot of this stuff. I would try to keep it as close to you as a person, keep it authentic, use language that you're comfortable, make it flow. The more comfortable you are with it, the more confident you'll be using it, and you won't feel like you're a new baby deer trying to navigate through. You can make changes at any time. You can add pages, delete pages, reorder. Again, the more you practice with it and get comfortable with it, you'll change it. It took me quite a while to get comfortable with mine to where it is. Go ahead and go to the next page, please. Okay, I like this one. So the first section of the presentation sets the tone for your relationship. It opens by asking buyers to explain their dream home buying experience. So I think one of the things as an agent is we tend to forget maybe their why. We get really caught up in what it is they're looking for, what the price point is, the location, things like that. But like we were talking about for you, Letha, her want is going to be really different than somebody who's getting married and buying a house together. You know what I mean? You really want to get to know what is important to you long term. 10 years from now, maybe the neighborhood doesn't matter as much. Like, what's your down payment going to look like? These are some really good questions to get to know your buyer on a little bit deeper of a level, because again, buyers are not always super forthcoming with information. You know, they'll say, I'm being gifted a down payment and I'm looking to buy A, B, or C, but we want to get to know a little bit more of that.
Well, I'm in a unique situation to where her mom's been my best friend since I was 5 years old. And so she's like a niece to me. She's
Yeah.
got twin babies and she's looking for her forever home. She
Yeah.
doesn't ever want to rent again. So
Yeah.
it's
So-
what, yeah. So I've got the inside scoop. I mean,
Yeah.
from different perspective than I've ever had with any other buyer.
Yeah, it's true. And we do have those clients sometimes that are so special. But in the event that they're not super forthcoming with information with us, you know, if they're a cold lead or whatever, say you met them at an open house, or you met them door knocking, how do you get them to give you information? Because sometimes it can feel kind of intrusive when you're like, okay, tell me about everything in your life. You have to know how to ask those questions. A good question to ask them is, your time frame. Tell me about, are we thinking this is our forever home? Is this a stepping stone? What do you see after? Do you want to rent this out? Is property management something that you're thinking about doing? Or are we just interested in, you know, fixer upper versus something that you can just quick move into and then maybe in a couple years sell and move on from? Okay, so what are some questions you could ask to get buyers to tell you a little bit more about their goals, their home buying goals in general? Not necessarily like the neighborhood, but long-term, big picture.
Asking where they see themselves 5-10 years from now.
Totally, yeah. You could ask them, you know, are they the handy type or do they prefer something that they don't have to invest a lot in up front? Are they looking to grow their family? Which page is it? I think the next slide, Kayla. There's one of these. Yeah, I think it's this page. One of them is, it's important to ask who's going to be living in the home. If they've got young kids or maybe they have a mother-in-law, those could definitely change what the long-term looks like for them. Are they going to need something that in a few years they can make wheelchair accessible, et cetera, et cetera? So this page right here gives you a couple of good questions to start off with, especially when you're working with a couple. Have you considered who my main contact would be? I will say probably it's the woman 9 times out of 10. She likes to send you the homes and schedule the showings, things like that. It does get kind of confusing right now. I have a couple, they're sellers. They do not communicate at all. So up front, I ask them how they like to communicate with me. Do you want me to just, you know, send all my correspondence through the wife? I learned they both like to be contacted separately about everything, which is fine. I'm happy to do that. But it's important to know those things because you don't want to be not reaching out to someone. And again, setting that expectation, you want to know how your buyers communicate. This question, what timeline would you like to strive for? This is huge. If they're on a lease and they can't start looking for 3 months, you don't really want to start sending them houses right away because all those houses are going to be sold by the time they're ready. Timeline is definitely a big one. If they have like a job or something that's going to be a milestone that you have to wait for, again, that's something that we want to set the expectation of. Price range, of course, and getting pre-approved. I like to ask my clients if they have a lender that they're working with already. Typically they'll say no, but if they do, great. We can definitely keep moving forward with that one, or I can recommend them a lender. A lot of times buyers are not super educated on why to get pre-approved, so that's another conversation you'll have through your buyer presentation. If I found a home today that checked all your boxes, could you see yourself making a move sooner rather than later? Again, that kind of goes with what I say at the end when I'm like, okay, are you ready to write an offer this week? It's a really good gauge of how serious they are. Okay, next slide, please. Your home wish list. This one's a lot of fun. After kind of building rapport with your clients, I will say FORD is an acronym I like to use, FORD. These are some great questions you can ask to build rapport. F being for family, O being occupation, R recreation, and D is dreams. Ask some questions around that. That way you can kind of get to know them. If you know that they want to have dogs, obviously we're going to need a yard. Just little things like that to help them know that you're listening. And then, of course, you get to ask them about all their home wants. Who will be living in the home? Let's list adults, children, and pets that will inhabit this space. What are the non-negotiables? I tell my clients, let's try to be a little bit flexible. Maybe the location isn't ideal, but the kitchen's everything you want. You know, there's not going to be one home that checks off every single box, but there is going to be a great fit. Beyond your top 5 needs, what's something you really want? Some people don't really care about views. Some people have to be on a golf course. These are definitely good qualifying questions. Do you have a preference for the year the house was built? Some people don't want an older home. Some people only want older homes. What are some other qualifying questions that you guys think would be important to ask your buyers? What are you doing, Kayla? Oh, wow. Good. Thanks, ma'am. All right. Do you guys have any questions on that section, or why getting to know what's important to your clients is important? Pretty self-explanatory. All right, let's go ahead and go on to neighborhood insights on the next slide, please. I think it'll come up eventually. I'm not really sure what's happening there. Okay, so say you have figured out the neighborhood that your buyer wants. They only want to be northwest or whatever it is. Why do you want to include information about the neighborhood that they're interested in?
To make sure all the selling points that they actually want are in that area.
Totally. If they want to be on a golf course, Central Tucson's probably not for them. Yeah, definitely. Also, you want to show that you're the market expert of whatever market it is. Definitely want to build trust with your clients. There is, Kayla, go ahead and go forward a slide for me, please. Thank you. In Command, there is neighborhood insights where you can pull up whatever area they're looking for. You can pull up the average list price, average, square footage of the home, different stats like that. I love this because, again, as a new agent, you don't have to actually be an expert. We have a lot of tools to help you become an expert super quickly. Go ahead and go to the next one, please. Okay, so a buyer who knows what to expect is a confident buyer, and a confident buyer is easier to work with than an anxious buyer who mentions objections throughout the process. That is pretty self-explanatory. I will say that I think that's probably the biggest objection you'll get with people when you're trying to set that appointment is they'll tell you, I'm not ready to buy a house. I don't know anything about buying a house. Perfect. Let's meet for coffee. I can sit down with you for about 30 minutes, give you a good idea of what to expect, not only from me as your agent, but again, how home buying itself works. And then again, the first piece of that is getting pre-qualified. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide for me, please. So the affiliated business arrangement disclosure, Keller Mortgage page of the buyer presentation is optional. If you include the Keller Mortgage page, you must also include the affiliated business arrangement. I started using Keller Mortgage as a backup lender. The first one I always go to, which we'll talk about when I do my buyer presentation with you guys, she's a local lender and she's fantastic, but I like to give people choices. So I always, if they're not super happy with her service or they want something to compare to, I do offer the Keller Mortgage too. So make sure that if you're using Keller Mortgage, you include this just as a disclosure. Okay, next slide, please. Have you guys worked on, what do they call it, your elevator speech? You guys haven't worked on that yet? Okay, so you'll have the opportunity. I wrote mine when I was with Stratton, and it's basically just like a quick little blurb about you. If you ran into someone in the elevator and they said, oh, you're in real estate, say, yeah, I've been in real estate for about 3 years. I'm with Keller Williams, Southern Arizona. A year ago, I started a program for first responders to give back to any first responders or teachers in our community. So when you buy or sell a home with me, I have discounts available. Just something that tells them a little bit about you and who you are. Shouldn't be anything super wordy. I would challenge you all to try to write that. It should be 30 seconds to a minute. If you're brand new in real estate, use your team. Is anybody here on a team? Are you all independent? All independent? Cool. You guys are awesome. Use KW too. You could say, you know, that we have the most listings. I don't know off the top of my head what our stats are right now, but Erin Wilson does a stats class, and those are available weekly from the Market Center. What are some other numbers you might track and present as part of your value proposition or your elevator speech? I know as a new agent, it can be a little bit intimidating.
When it comes to selling houses, we have over 400 buyers waiting to buy because we have an extensive agency. That's one thing.
Yeah, for sure. Through Keller Williams, you have access to thousands of buyers through the way that we market. Absolutely use that. I would use whatever you have from prior jobs. I was in customer service for a really long time. So when I first got into real estate, it was really easy for me to let my clients know that I was here for them, just because I have like 10 plus years in customer service. I would use whatever background you have to help aid in that. Does that make sense?
I use my construction background all the time.
Sure.
I
You
was
have some knowledge about that. Absolutely.
15 years in flooring and 3 years general construction, and most of that wrapped around customer service and materials and sales reps and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that's going to make your buyer feel like you value them. You know, whatever background you come from. If you're military, people love our military members. If you were a teacher, customer service, whatever it is, everybody has some skills that play to their strengths that they can relate to their buyer. Okay, go ahead and go to our next slide. Keep going. Okay, so I think this will actually get to kind of role play with the buyer presentation. Go ahead and go to the next one. Cool. Let me catch up here. Okay, let's go one more. I don't love the way that this is laid out. Okay. This is probably a good opportunity for me to go through my buyer presentation with you guys. Again, keep in mind it's structured a little bit differently than the one that's offered in Command, just because I did mine before. Kayla, am I able to share my screen? Oh, the little button. Okay. Let's see. Does that work? Can everyone see it? Hooray! This makes me so happy. Again, not great with technology. All right. So do you guys want to take a break really fast before I go into this? Because it is very wordy. You guys want to take like 5 minutes and then I'll jump in? Okay.
Sure.
All right, let's do that. See you guys at 9:35. All right, we'll give it a few more minutes, maybe like 30 more seconds here, give everybody a chance to jump back on. Do you guys have any questions for me so far about buyers in general, or buyer presentation, or setting buyer appointments?
Every time
Well,
I
it
start
sounds,
you back up, it's like,
I do have one. It
Yeah.
sounds like, I think I was a little bit further along now listening to you. So when we start introducing ourselves to people and we get ready to get going, our goal is to not explain too much on the phone, get some lead up questions to find out if they're A, B, or C sellers or buyers, and then try to get the appointment instead of going through the whole list. And then to do that like you did, and like I assume we just build our pre-qualifying list of questions and stuff to get our feelers out there, and then we want to get in front of them to do the whole presentation.
Yeah, exactly. We're not selling real estate over the phone. That's incredibly hard to do. But sometimes we get in our own way. And we can kind of tend to lean that way because it's what you are comfortable talking about. But always stop yourself and just ask for the business, set the appointment. I've had phone calls sometimes with a cold call or a cold lead or whatever it is, and you have to ask 3 times. And I think that's what will make you more successful. Sometimes I've had a situation, depending on where the phone number comes from, where they don't even live here. So that's always a really qualifying question too. Are you free to meet with me for about 30 minutes? And then if they say like, oh, I don't even live in Tucson, I just own that property, or whatever the situation is, you can do a Zoom conference or whatever. But yeah, you will save yourself a lot of, like, I guess, time wasting and wheel spinning if you get out of the habit of trying to convert people over the phone and just set that appointment. Hey, I saw you were on my website looking at homes. Are you thinking about buying? Oh, I don't know. I was just kind of looking or whatever. Okay, cool. Well, Tuesday morning, are you free for about half an hour? We can get together. Tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for, and I'll go over what to expect. I feel like again, once you get busier and you have a lot of clients, you'll kind of start to figure out who to give more of your time to, depending on how serious they are. If you have ready, willing, and able buyers who want to meet with you, they're going to take your priority always over somebody who's half in, half unsure. And the first way to do that is by setting the appointment. If they're willing to meet with you, chances are they're very ready to buy a home.
With the strange conditions right now with COVID, are you having to mix doing Zooms with people, or are you pretty much still successful getting people to actually meet you places?
I have done a lot of FaceTimes, which is very new for me. Again, not great with technology. My strong suit is being in person in front of people. And so it's been a huge learning curve, but it can be done, and it can be done well. Usually I'll email people this buyer presentation. We'll go over it together via FaceTime or over the phone, whatever they're comfortable with. Some people don't like having their cameras on doing Zoom. So I just kind of tailor to whatever works best for them.
Okay.
I will say that I will meet with anybody one time. I have been fortunate enough to have somebody hit me up and say, hey, can I see this home? I will meet everyone at least one time at a house. After that point, if they're not pre-qualified or they're not serious, that's when you set the appointment. So don't take that to mean that if somebody wants to see a house, you have to say no because you have to do the buyer presentation first. I've done buyer presentations in a house for them. So just keep that in mind too.
I was going to say that'd be a good time to do it if they just want to meet you there. I'll just do the whole presentation while we're walking.
Yeah, and sometimes it's weird. I mean, sometimes I've met people who are not pre-qualified and are not serious about getting pre-qualified. So that's why I pretty much will give anybody the opportunity one time. Because once you're in front of them, you have a way easier conversion rate than over the phone. because at that point you're a real person. So yeah, I would, anytime you know that you're potentially meeting a buyer, again, if they're like, hey, I'm standing outside this house, is there any way you can show it? Yes, absolutely. And I'm bringing your buyer presentation because I'm going to bombard you with this information right here and right now.
And
Okay.
I've heard that you guys don't drive around clients as much anymore. You meet them there, or you
Yeah,
don't
it,
around?
it depends. For me, I feel safest having my clients follow me for several reasons. I don't really like clients in my car. It can be kind of uncomfortable. Um, Also, I think that letting them follow you, like say you're going to look at 3 or 5 houses or however many, having them follow you also gives them the opportunity to talk among themselves. And they might be able to come to conclusions that they wouldn't necessarily say with you there. I've had clients where we leave one house and they're like, yeah, it's great. And then we get to the next one and they say, you know, after talking about it, we don't love this and that. And so I do like to give them that privacy to kind of talk amongst themselves. For older clients, I pretty much always offer to drive them. They appreciate that. I guess kind of just feel it out, whatever you're most comfortable with. I just don't love clients in my car. It's kind of awkward for me.
But mostly you have the buyer's agreement signed before you start showing houses.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you're basically wasting your time, right?
Yeah. Even if it's like a friend or a sphere, I always sit them down and do a buyer presentation. With friends, it's more fun because usually I'll take them to lunch or we'll have a beer and go over it. So it doesn't feel as stuffy or as like professional. But I always do it. I think it's so important to set the expectations for your client. That way, if a transaction starts to go sideways, because it will, no transaction goes perfectly, you can always revert back and say, okay, well, remember in the beginning, I told you this, this, and that, whatever the situation is, and they don't feel scared. They don't feel like they don't know what to expect. I usually print them out a hard copy or I email it to them. In any case, I make sure that they have this to refer to at any point so that they know, you know, this is why we get pre-qualified, or there's a specific way in how I show homes too. And so when they want to see 10 houses on a Saturday, I let them know that that's not how I do it and why. And then that way there's no surprises. I feel like surprises and miscommunication will kill real estate transactions and real estate relationships faster than anything else. If your buyer trusts you and a transaction goes sideways, you can recover from that pretty well. But if your buyer doesn't trust you and something comes up with the lender or the appraisal, they can get real squirrely, and it makes everything harder. Trust is so, so important with your clients.
So why don't you show 10 houses on a Saturday?
I'll go over that in the presentation. It's exhausting for all parties. For new home buyers especially, it's too much. We're in such a hot market right now anyways that there's no point to that. It's like you see 2 houses and you need to submit an offer. But I think the main point, you know, if we're not in a super hot market, is it's just exhausting for them. They start to forget like what kitchen goes with what backyard. The houses start to kind of lose their wow factor and it becomes almost tedious. And when your buyers aren't having fun, it starts to get really stressful.
But on the same note, you wouldn't let one buyer want you to go one house a day for 3 weeks straight, would you?
No, that would drive me insane. That would be really hard.
Yeah.
I'll kind of go over how we get to that. While I'm going through this, please feel free to stop me. It's become very routine for me. So some things I might not realize you guys have questions on or not realize what it sounds like for you. So please, if at any point you have questions, let me know and I'll clarify. So this I made in Canva. Again, you can do the same thing in Command. It's got a great template that'll set you up for it. You can plug in your own photos, graphics, everything. I had somebody make my logo for me. I would definitely recommend having somebody help you do that just because it's a really cool thing to add to your marketing and sets you apart from everyone else. All right, so this is a little bit about me that I let my clients read. I say, you know, definitely read through that in your own time, just as a little bit about me as a realtor. And then of course, there's a couple testimonials attached there from past clients. I do just want to congratulate you on your decision to buy a home. This is a huge step. I know it might be scary or new, but I just want to assure you that you're in great hands. As your realtor, my promise to you is to provide a high level of client care, always set you up with clear expectations, and negotiate strongly on your behalf to create a win-win and get you into the right home. I promise to always be transparent with information regarding the home and my level of expertise.
Which we have none if we're new.
You will, though. This will set you up. You will. Be confident. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why to get pre-qualified. Remember in the beginning, I asked you if you were working with a lender. When we find a house that you want to write an offer on, we have to submit a letter of pre-qualification that shows the seller that you're able to purchase the home. Part of the reason I always get you pre-qualified up front is, again, so we can write that letter with our offer, but also because I only want to show you homes that you can afford, and I want to know what type of loan you're doing. Different homes qualify for different loans. Sometimes a house won't go FHA, and if you're an FHA buyer, we don't want to waste time looking at those homes. So once you get ready to get pre-qualified, here's a couple things you can expect from the lender. They are going to do a hard credit pull, but that credit pull is good for 45 days. In that 45 days, you can consult with as many lenders as you want to shop around for the best rate. Things to consider when we're talking to lenders is see who's going to give you the best interest rate, who might save you on closing costs. I know Keller Mortgage, I don't know if you guys know this, but sometimes Keller Mortgage will waive the closing costs. So if your buyers are in a position where they don't have a ton of cash, it might be worth it to do an application with them. And then the other thing I'd like to tell my buyers is we also want to make sure that you have an easy time communicating with this lender. Throughout the 45-day closing period, we're going to be talking to this lender a lot. And if you guys aren't jiving, I want to find you a lender that you do match up well with. When you do your online application, you'll be turning in some pay stubs and W-2s just to verify some income. Right now with COVID, lenders are doing income verifications up to like 2 days before closing. This is just to double, triple check that you are qualified to purchase this home. Once you're turning in all of your documents, they'll also go over the loan types that you are eligible for, whether it be down payment assistance, conventional loan, FHA, VA, whatever the situation is, the lender will help determine what loan is best for you. And then with that, we'll also talk about what monthly payment's going to be comfortable for you and how much cash will be due at closing. This is Selena Studi. She is my favorite lender that I work with. We have a long friendship and I've been working with her for about 3 years now. Again, she's a local lender. I prefer local lenders because they work when we work. So say we're looking at a house and it's Saturday, it's 6:00 p.m., you're ready to write an offer, but Wells Fargo is closed, so we can't get our letter of pre-qual. Local lenders are going to be able to send us that pre-qual so we can get our offer in. You won't have to wait until Monday to get that, which has been super frustrating. I don't know if that's ever happened to you guys, but I've been in situations where we wanted to write an offer, the lender wasn't working, we couldn't get a hold of them, my buyer missed out on the house. And that to me is an absolute deal breaker. I will not do business with lenders who work like that. This is Steve. I don't work with him anymore, but he's great. All right, so congratulations, you're pre-qualified. Once the lender has given us the green light, we can start shopping. Again, I don't like to show any homes until you're pre-qualified because I don't want to show you something that you can't afford, and then we have to backtrack and try to make up for that. It's very painful for everyone involved. From this point until closing, it is crucial that you do not take out any new loans, any new lines of credit, or have any additional credit inquiries. Basically, pay your bills, keep doing what you're doing, and do not change your credit score between now and when you get the keys. A lot of times buyers will get excited. They'll go to Home Depot or whatever, take out a line of credit for a washer and dryer. Then suddenly they don't qualify for the house and they can't buy for another year. So once you're pre-qualified, do not change your credit. Keep doing exactly what you're doing until you get your keys. You'll need approximately $1,500 just to start out. We're going to say $1,000 of that is for our earnest money once we find the house we like, and then about $500 for your inspections, which I'll talk a little bit more about what the inspection period looks like. When we start looking at homes, it's important to note that we're only going to see about 5 to 6 at one time. Again, it's very overwhelming to try to see more. Once in a while, you might have a buyer who's here from out of town and they need to see however many in a short period of time. But as a rule of thumb, I wouldn't show more than like 5 to 6. It gets very overwhelming and it takes a long time. The whole point of your buyer consultation is you should know what they're looking for so that when you send them 8 homes, all 8 of those are homes that they want to see. And then you can narrow it down to like 4 or 5. If you see more than 5 and not one of them is it, something's missing and it's time to go back to the drawing board and figure out what they're looking for. And you can usually tell. Buyers are pretty transparent. I would say in the first 2 minutes that they're in a house, you can tell if they like it or not. I also tell my buyers, drive by homes that you're interested in. I can't tell you how many times we pulled up to a house and a buyer's been like, nope, I don't like it. Don't even want to see the inside. Save everyone some time. You know, if you know you're going out tomorrow to see these 5 houses, drive by them. Drive by them at night, see what they look like. If there's street lights, drive by them at high traffic times. The traffic might be a deal breaker for you. I always tell my buyers, kind of scope out the area a little bit before we check it out to see if it's something you really want to see. Again, we kind of talked about being flexible. Try to be open with some wider parameters such as your location, floor plans, square footage, etc. This is really why you want to ask those qualifying questions on what's important to them and find out what really is a deal breaker and what is something that they can negotiate on. Remember, we probably won't find the perfect house, but there will be a lot of homes that check most of the boxes and will be a great fit. Don't be surprised if you fall in love with the first home you see. I use the analogy of like women shopping for a wedding dress. How many times do they go back to the first dress they tried on? I think sometimes buyers get a little bit freaked out that they like the first house so much, and they tell them we can absolutely explore other houses, but don't be afraid that if you like the first one so much, we can definitely write an offer. But sometimes people feel like it's too soon or it can't be the right one or whatever. Say, you know, it's great if you love this one. We can check out a couple more just so you have something to compare it to. But I do think this one's a good fit. Okay, what to expect when writing an offer. Do you guys have any background on this? Have you guys taken contract classes and whatnot yet?
That's the last day, I believe, is contract to close.
Okay, cool. So once you get more, go ahead.
I said I've written contracts. I've closed on 12 houses so far, but you know, I had to figure it out for myself, kind of. I got more information from the broker that I was working adjacent to, like the listing agent, than I did my own. So.
Oh, that's so tough. Well, please don't ever struggle. If any of you have like a buyer coming up or anything, get with me. I'm happy to role play through your own buyer presentation with you. Whatever you guys need, don't feel like you have to struggle and flounder. That's definitely not what we're here for. Okay, so again, we'll just start with the earnest money. I always like to ask my buyers too, like just to reaffirm, how long ago did you say you bought your last house, or how long has it been since you purchased, or this is your first house, right? Just reaffirming, like, I'm guiding you through this process, have some trust in me. Once we find a house that we like, we're going to submit an offer to the sellers. Once all the negotiation has finally been finished, we all agree on terms, we write a check for what's called the earnest money. And that's typically $1,000 or 1% of the purchase price. And it's similar to like a security deposit. It shows the seller you're serious about buying the home and opens up escrow so we can start the process. My job is to ensure that you're paying the right market value for the home. I take many factors into consideration when we decide what price to offer, such as days on market, competition for the home, what the other homes are selling for, buyer closing costs. These are other things that we can kind of get into, but there's a lot of things that go into how you structure your offer. And your job as the agent is to make sure that you are giving them the fair chance, especially in this market. It's so hot. It can be so stressful. Once we open escrow, we move into our inspection period. This is a 10-day inspection period to identify any major issues with the home. Expect to pay about $500 to $800 for the inspections. And then our total closing period takes about 45 days. going back to the inspection period, as I mentioned, we have 10 days to have the home looked at. During this 10-day period, you can cancel and get your earnest money back. I schedule your roof inspection, your termite, your HVAC if necessary, any other inspections. Basically, we want to give you a full scope on this home so that you know what you're getting into. Again, this shows the prices and whatnot. Roof inspections are free. I use Roof Savers, and lately I've been using Spencer Roofing. I always try to get 2 quotes just for accuracy and see where they come in at. I use US Pest for termite, it costs $38. This is Greg DeBenedetti. He has done pretty much every home inspection for me in the last 3, almost 4 years. He's fantastic. He's super thorough. He'll go through at the end, he'll give the buyers a nice little summary and say, this is what I found. This is how you remedy it. This is how serious it is. I would stay away from home inspectors who make your buyers fearful. I have used a home inspector in the past who would just call out issues, but not give us any solution. And when you see buyers' eyeballs get this big, just don't do it. Use someone who's going to say, yeah, we found termites, but this is how you remedy it. Problem solved. Or, water heater needs to be replaced. No big deal. Even if it is big stuff, you just want someone who's not going to freak your buyers out. Some buyers like to have
And you said that Pueblo Homes you like?
Yes, he's fantastic. There's another guy there too. His name's Joe, and Joe's just as thorough. They're awesome.
Okay.
I can give you guys his contact info too at the end if you want it. He's really good. Some buyers like to have plumbing, pool, septic, or other inspections if needed. Basically, I just go off what Greg says. The HVAC inspection is pretty much non-negotiable because we live in the desert. Even if it's blowing fine, I still like to have a company come out and look at it. George's heating and cooling is pretty good. I also use Goodfellas HVAC. They're super reliable, super honest. And they can give you a pretty good idea of just a nice diagnostics. Sometimes you'll run into a system that's like 20 years old, and while there isn't anything wrong with it, you can't really ask the sellers to replace it. So it's just good to know what the longevity of it looks like. So those are the main ones: roof, termite, general home inspection, and then HVAC pretty much always. And then if there's a pool, we can move into that. Or if Greg says, you should probably have the lines looked at, whatever. Some agents do septic scopes every single time. It's usually about $100. I don't think it's super necessary every time. I would rather save my buyer $100 if it's not necessary.
If you're doing FHA, you have to have a septic inspection.
I don't know that that's true. That might be news to me. I haven't heard that before.
Well, I've done a lot of Dudleyville homes, and they were all like USDA and FHA, and we had to have the lenders required for FHA qualifications a septic inspection and if need be.
Yeah,
it had to,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was thinking sewer. No, you're absolutely right. Septic, it has to be cleaned out, certified, and inspected every time.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely
which is about $1,000.
Yeah.
But that's usually coming from the seller.
Typically, the seller will pay for it. Title typically tacks that onto the seller automatically, unless it's part of a negotiation. The buyer might take that responsibility on. Say the buyer pays for that, and then the seller pays HOA fees or something like that. Again, everything is negotiable. So I try not to keep hard, fast rules on stuff. Remind your buyers of that too. Even timelines are negotiable.
Yeah.
So after our inspection period, we have what's called our BINSR, and this is the buyer's inspection notice and seller's response. This is our opportunity to ask the seller to correct 3 to 5 major things. This would be any roof work, plumbing, termites, anything that would stop the loan from funding. On a VA loan, you can't have water damage. So anything that would either stop the loan from funding or cost your buyer a ton of money in the end. You wouldn't ask for paint, you wouldn't ask for carpet. It's just your opportunity. Say there's a couple roof leaks, you'll write up on your BINSR for the seller to fix those things. And at that point, the seller will decide if they want to do that. If the seller says no, you may back out. The only money you're out at that point is your inspection money. You get your earnest money back. You're free to go look for something else. If the seller agrees to make those repairs, then your loan moves forward. Do you guys have any questions about this page?
And I assume you have a list of contacts of people you like for all of them, right? Like HVAC, plumbing, pool.
Yes, and I'll be happy to share that with you guys at the end. Basically, I tell my buyers, you're welcome to come to the inspections. I try to schedule everything on the same day. Once we have all of our reports, we're going to look at everything, and then we're going to ask the seller to fix 3 to 5 major things. Again, there's things, sorry, I heard someone knocking. Again, there's things that go into that with negotiating. Say you're way under contract price, your seller's probably not going to be super willing to make those repairs. So just kind of keep that in mind. But your buyer always has the opportunity to ask. It kind of prevents them from feeling like they have to buy this house not knowing. I had a seller, this was like earlier in the year, the roof needed about $20,000 worth of work, which we didn't know. She had just bought the home, and unfortunately when she bought it, she wasn't represented very well. So then when I came through to help her sell it, we found out that her whole roof had to be redone. And so what we ended up doing was just taking 20 grand off the purchase price because she didn't have the money to do it. The buyers obviously didn't, so they got a really good deal on the house. All right, so once the seller agrees to make those repairs, your loan is going to move into underwriting. To me, this is the hardest point of the transaction because it's pretty hands-off for the realtor. The appraisal is going to be ordered and the loan is pretty much just at the hands of the lender. You go from communicating with your buyer almost on a daily basis and showing them homes to radio silence, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just that the loan's being worked on and you don't really have anything to do at this point. Obviously, keep checking in with them, give them any updates that they may have. But I hate this part because it's like 2 weeks where you just kind of hang out and wait for final approval, appraisal to come in, things like that. At this point, the seller will start sending you invoices for all the repairs that they make, and then you'll be able to schedule your final walkthrough. Your final walkthrough is your opportunity to verify that all the repairs were done correctly. What I love about Greg is he'll do a final walkthrough with you because as realtors, you probably are not going to be getting on roofs. You probably don't know how to verify that some repairs are done correctly. You can give Greg a call and say, hey, this was fixed. Will you come out and verify that it was done correctly? And he's awesome about that. Signing and keys. So this part's a little bit new. Depending on when your client last bought a house, it used to be that you would sign and get keys right there. Now how it works is a few days before closing, the lender confirms your closing costs. You get what's called the CD, closing disclosure, settlement statement, etc. You'll hear it referred to as all of that. This will tell you how much the buyer needs to bring to the table, if anything. It can be a wire transfer or a cashier's check, no personal checks. And it's due at signing. Again, you'll do your final walkthrough and then you'll go to signing. I always do the final walkthrough because that's their last opportunity to verify that the house is how agreed in the contract. Once buyer and seller have both signed the loan documents and title documents, the lender wires the funds to the title company, and then the title company sends an electronic copy of all the documents to the county to record the new owner. So typically what we see is I do final walkthrough that night or that morning. Then we go to the title company at sign, takes about 2 hours. And then either that afternoon or next morning, depending on what time of day you sign, everybody gets an email from the county that says, or from title, I'm sorry, that says, congratulations, we've recorded. Once you get that notification of recording, then you'll meet your buyer for the keys. I typically meet them at the house. Some people pull them out of the lockbox and take them to their office or whatever the situation is, but you cannot give keys until title has recorded. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions about that? That seems to be the most confusing part when you have a buyer as you're going through this process. So just keep reminding them that we're going to sign. If you sign usually at 9 in the morning, you'll get keys by 5 that day. But I think the cutoff is about noon. So if they sign after noon, they get keys the next morning. Does that make sense? Just try to remember to reaffirm that because buyers think closing day key is all in the same time frame, and the last thing you want is a miscommunication and they have a moving truck and they're not getting their keys for a whole nother day. You will feel like a jerk. All right, that's all I have for you guys on this one. Do you guys have any questions about this buyer presentation? Do you want to go over any other parts of it? Nicole, you're muted. There you go.
That template is yours that you made personally?
Yeah, I wrote it from scratch. That's way more work than you have to do. I would definitely use the template in Command.
Okay.
If you want to take down like your favorite bullet points of this, implement whatever you like, absolutely. But it's way easier to just use the template in Command. It is set up to be a really good buyer presentation. I wrote this after I left Stratton because I had appointments and I just didn't have the patience to do it. So I felt pretty confident in my knowledge. So I just jotted it down and started it from scratch, but don't do that to yourself. Just use the template.
Stratton, was that a broker or was that a team?
That's a team here at KW.
Oh.
Yeah, they're awesome. I definitely recommend, I don't know if any of you were thinking about joining a team, but I do think it's beneficial. Of course, you have to give up some of your commission, but they train you, they give you the leads. It was awesome. I loved being a part of their team.
How long did you do it?
I think I was with them for almost 2 years.
And then why did you leave? I'm just so curious about.
No, that's okay. I was just ready to go out on my own. There were some things that I wasn't totally aligned with the team. I think they're awesome people. I think there's so much to learn from them. As a new agent, I would pretty much recommend Stratton as a team to anyone. Just, I love them as people and they were awesome. And they definitely helped me be successful. But at the end of the day, I didn't want to take on as much as I had to on a team. Obviously, when you're giving up your commission, you have to do more transactions than if you're a solo agent because you're making 50% versus 100% of your commission. So at the end of the day, I just made the decision to go out on my own. It was really scary, but I'm glad I did it.
And how long were you on the team right away from license, or were you solo for a little bit?
Yeah, I was at Tierra Antigua for about 6 months, but I had zero anything. I hosted a couple open houses, but didn't get any traction. And so I was just like, I don't know if this is going to work out for me. So then I interviewed with KW and was just blown away by the support. And so then I decided to join a team, and Stratton was who I chose. And then, like I said, I got my first escrow in about 3 weeks. Yeah, they're awesome.
And when you say you had to do more transactions, meaning what exactly? Like you were in charge of showing more because you were on the team. I mean, what do you mean?
So as an agent, you have your financial goals, and when you're giving up 50% of your commission, instead of selling 5 houses to hit, say, like a 30K commission mark, you have to sell 10 because you're giving up 50% to the team. And so I didn't love being overwhelmed like that because I do prefer to be buyer heavy. And when you take on a lot of buyers, that is the hard part, is that you hit a bottleneck of your time. I mean, you're only one person and you can only show so many houses in a day or go to inspections. And I was just getting a little bit burnt out working at that pace. A lot of people love it. I think the team structure works for a lot of people, having somebody hold you accountable, being in the office, doing your scripts, doing your role playing. But for me, I prefer to kind of do my own thing. I think a team is really good for some agents. I needed the structure. I was horrible at having the self-discipline to make my cold calls in the morning. When you're on a team, they're very strict about 9 to noon is lead generation, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I was really grateful for that because it did make me successful. But on my own, as a new agent, no, couldn't do it. So there's definitely some perks, I think, just getting, again, the structure implemented. They are feeding you business and teaching you how to service the business. So I felt like I had so much support. Anytime I would meet a new buyer, wasn't sure what to do, I had a lot of people that I could lean on. We did script practice every day. It was a really good experience. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to take on less clients.
I mean, everybody's situation, I guess that's the whole thing about this.
Yeah, that's what I love about being an independent contractor, is kind of getting to do my own thing. It was nice getting into real estate, breaking out from what I did before, because now I got to be my own boss and make my own schedule. Do you guys
I have a question about your buyer presentation.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said sometimes you send us an email or sometimes you print it out. You don't always present like the whole folder and everything. You just have a printed copy for them, or you sit down and you go back and forth with them, right?
Yeah, I always go over it with them. If we're doing like a Skype, I'll email it to them so that they have it ahead of time and then we can go over it together.
Yeah.
But when I meet with a new buyer, I always go over it. And then I always have my buyer broker agreement too. And
With
then,
you so you can get them to sign it.
So say we go through this whole thing, we're at the end. I'll ask them, okay, so do you have any questions about the process or what that looks like? And then we'll kind of go over it. And then I'll say like, all right, Linda, I need your signature on this buyer broker. This is just an employment agreement. Again, it's just a commitment from me as your agent and as from you as a client so that I can be invested in sending you homes. Go ahead and get this signed, and then I can start sending you homes that fit your needs. I don't usually have a lot of pushback. I've been very lucky.
That's what I was going to ask next. Is I feel very comfortable about asking people to sign it. I was just wondering about some of the pushback that people have. I talked to a good friend of mine and I was telling him I was in real estate because he sent me a couple leads already.
Nice.
And he said that he'd never heard of that because his agent didn't make him do it. And I know I've heard from agents that it's basically up to us whether we choose or not to. You just take a lot more risk by not having them do that. Did you do any of the transactions where you did get pushback because you felt like they were going to be still with you, or did you just make it happen?
I've been very successful with getting buyer broker signed up front. I have been burned twice. It took me one time of not getting a buyer broker signed because I was too afraid to ask. They were a cash buyer. I didn't get it signed and they used another agent. It was like a $450,000 price point. And I didn't, because I was afraid. I was too afraid to ask. I didn't think I was worth it. I didn't think I was professional enough. And that was my first year. And I literally still kick myself over it. So I feel like in real estate, we're the experts and we have to guide them. And it's all in how you set it up. Like
Yeah, in the restaurants, it was you run your table or they run you. You have to set it up that way.
Yes, 100%. And so it's just in the way that you deliver it. I just say, all right, in order for me to start sending you some homes, I just need a signature here. This is our employment agreement. You can see it's good from today's date to 3 months from now, although we're not going to really need 3 months because I'm going to find the perfect home for you next week. And you just get.
I've heard differences and I figure for the most part, it's not going to be an issue. Have you had any issues with the 6%? I figure it's going to be kind of on a person-to-person basis. The person that haggles me over the commission price is somebody that's not a first-time buyer. They're very, very educated type of person. So you'll know that right up front.
Yeah, so buyers don't pay their agent. That's a great statistic, I guess, to throw at them is that you can just remind them. Also, just so you know, as to your buyer's agent, I'm free to you. The seller pays my commission. The seller pays the 6%. So I cost you nothing unless your team charges like a retainer fee or a transaction fee or whatever. But I don't do that. So for buyers, I'm totally free. And that's a huge perk to them is although I work for you, you don't technically pay me. It comes from the seller.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys have any other questions about getting that buyer broker signed or setting a buyer appointment? Any fears around setting a buyer appointment or going through a buyer presentation?
Do you have I almost want to ask, I hate for it, but do you have like a list of the pre-qualification questions that you ask them on the phone before? Because like I told you, I have a tendency to babble and I don't want to try to do it over the phone. I need to get the appointment to sit down and talk to them. Do you have a list that you like that are just those questions? Because we have a lot of the information in the book and I'm going to sit down and try to write one up. But
yeah, on a cold call, time frame, super important. If they are in a lease, if they just signed a year lease, they're not serious. So that's always one time frame. If they live here, just kind of depends on how the conversation flows. Sometimes they'll start talking to you about the area that they like right away or a specific house or whatever. I kind of roll with that to an extent maybe just a little bit, and then always try to get in front of them. Like, okay, so what I'm hearing is that, you know, you just got a new job, you guys have a baby on the way, obviously you're going to need a bigger house. Let's get together for about 30 minutes. I can learn a little bit more about what you're looking for, and we can go over what the buying process looks like.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't like to do a lot of the Ford, like I told you guys, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. I don't like to do a lot of that over the phone. Building rapport in person will help you so much more.
Okay.
Cool. Well, that was a lot faster than I thought it would be. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. Like I said, if you want to role play buyer presentations or even seller presentations when you get there, I'm super happy to do it. I have a lot of passion around
here.
What's that?
Sorry, my daughter. I was talking to my daughter.
Oh, okay.
She's all watching us. You said you would be able to get us some of the contacts, because this week I'd like to start trying to get some of the vendors and stuff, and I have got a list from anybody yet.
Okay, so let's start with Greg, my home inspector. He's so great. He's just wonderful human. A little background of Greg: he does voiceovers. He's a voice actor. So the way that he speaks, I just love listening to him. He speaks incredibly clear, and when he talks to your clients, he's just friendly, and again has that like commercial radio voice. He's awesome. He also does old Tucson like gun shows. So his name is Greg DeBenedetti. Let me go back to his page so you can see it. There it is, with Pueblo Home Inspections. Okay, and his phone number is 520-437-2682. And you can call or text. Usually he needs about 2 days notice to get a home inspection scheduled. So typically if my inspections, I like to schedule them like ASAP. Say you open escrow on a Monday your inspection should be scheduled, especially because roofers are taking so long right now. And then for roofing, I use Roof Savers. They seem to be the most unbiased because they don't make repairs. Spencer Roofing is also really good.
Do you have a phone number for Roof Savers?
Your best bet is to go online. Both of these vendors can go online, roofsavers.com, and fill out your request. It'll say inspection report, I'm a realtor, you put the address across streets, and then if it's occupied or not. Super, super easy, and it's free. Spencer Roofing too, they do the same thing.
It's free?
Mm-hmm. Blue Mountain.
You say the inspection's free?
Huh?
What about your termite inspector? You say $38. That's an awesome price.
Yeah, I
Who do you use?
US Pest. I use Troy or Corey with a K. Both of them are awesome. Let me pull up their phone number for you. It's Unified Pest Services. And their phone number is 520-296-7738.
Can I ask a question? The vendor stuff, is that where you put the homekeeper?
Homekeeper, that sounds so familiar. Refresh me on what Homekeeper is.
Maybe the other Kayla can help us. So it's something that is on our introduction. We have a website and a login and the whole shebang. I think that's for where you put vendor information.
Yeah, it is. That's where you can put your favorite vendors.
Okay.
Over time too, you guys will start to make more connections. Sometimes for me, I'm really hesitant on using a new vendor just because, again, in my 3 years, I sold over 100 homes and I have used the same vendors on all of those. Like once you figure out your people, you will want to stick with them.
Yeah, that's what somebody said too about, especially like with lenders and stuff, because then they'll help you so much with printing and backing you up, and you know, it's like loyalty kind of thing.
And they send you referrals. I've had, like Greg has sent me clients, my lender has sent me clients, just really staying faithful to them. I mean, obviously if you hate doing business with them, don't use them, but I've got my vendor list now to where like I won't use anyone but Greg. I have gone even as far to extend an inspection period so I could use Greg, because I didn't want to use someone else. I don't trust them. I don't want an opinion of someone I've never used before, especially on something huge like telling my buyer if their appliances work or not.
What's your number? Do you give your number?
My phone number? Yeah, it's 520-220-8909. Yeah. Definitely reach out to me if you guys have any questions at all. Like I said, I have a lot of passion around buyers. They're my favorite. So I'm always happy to help, especially with the role playing and stuff, or, different ways to present the information. Obviously, we all speak differently, and I want you guys to be comfortable in your buyer presentation so that as you're delivering it, you don't feel like you're reading someone else's.
Have you had any, is it mixed reviews on when you meet people for the actual presentation, whether it's out in public or whether it's at their home? Is it just kind of depend on the person, or?
Yeah, it's pretty much whatever is most flexible for them. Like I said, sometimes I was very fortunate. Oh, the other thing I want to tell you guys about is the KW app. Make sure you're using that. Make sure you're sharing it with all your clients. It's branded to you. No joke, about a month ago, a past client of mine shared my app with her coworker. This woman called me and said, hey, will you show me this house? Like I said, I'll always meet someone one time at a house. So I said, sure, got my buyer presentation, went there. She was pre-qualified, ready to go. So we did our buyer presentation in the house. I showed her 2 more. We wrote an offer and she's under contract.
Nice.
So definitely make sure you're using that app because it works.
Okay.
That took like 0 marketing on my end. It was just all the, like, what do we call it? Front loading from the first client I helped, closed her. She's been in her house for a year. And then when I met her, I said, oh, like, how'd you find me? That's so great. You're using the app. And she said, oh, so-and-so. It's awesome. Your past clients are going to be the best people to send you business.
So I had a question still about that whole app thing that I was trying to get figured out, because I sent it to a couple, like, close friends that to test them with it. And like my mom, my husband, a close friend that I hope is going to use me, like maybe be my first client someday here.
Yeah.
And all of them had to go search for me to make them my agent, me their agent, even though I did the directions for the whole thing and it had my, supposed to be to me, but they had to go search for me.
I would get with either Heather or Kayla or some of our techs for that, because I don't have that answer. But there is a way to brand it so that every time you share the app, and then anybody who shares your share, it's connected to you.
Yeah, something's weird, because they said that the person had to be in command in contacts. And, obviously I don't think my husband was in command yet, but then I tried it with someone who was in command and it still didn't work. That they had to go search me.
Okay, yeah, I would try to get some support on that. Unfortunately,
Yeah, if you can send me and Heather an email, Nicole, we can work on that.
Yeah, it's just weird because I already did, and you guys said what I said, so I don't know what else is wrong.
Well, you got your code in command to set it up, and then you go to that link and you download the app from command, and then it's branded to you in your phone where you have the app in your phone, and then you share the app from your phone. There's a thing in there where you share it, and then when they get it and they open it up and download the app, it's automatically branded to you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I missed a step somewhere because I have all that stuff. So maybe I missed something somewhere.
So in your app, is your app branded to you when in your phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where that
when
whole
you share it.
It should go to me. I know, but it didn't work. So I don't know. You can start over or what.
All right, so your homework from here is going to go into command, get your buyer presentation customized. If you guys have questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to share my presentation with you or help you build yours, whatever you guys need. Again, the one in command is such a great template. don't start from scratch. Work smarter, not harder.
Thank you very much.
You are so
Thank you for
welcome.
your time. Thank you.
There's also
Thank you.
for the buyers stuff, if you go to YouTube / Keller Williams Southern Arizona, there are all of Heather's videos on designs, which will show you how you can access all of those too. So Dan will not be jumping on the call today. So like Kayla said, just start working on your buyer books.
Thank you.
Welcome. I want to role play with some of you guys once you get them all written up. So reach out to me. It'll be
Okay.
fun. Cool. Bye guys. Good luck. You're going to be so successful.
Woo woo.